Okay.
Councillors, please. Welcome to East Gippsland Shire Council's meeting of Tuesday the 18th of February 2025. East Gippsland Shire Council live streams, records and publishes its meetings via webcasting. These recordings are available for viewing by the public by following the link on Council's website. During the meeting, any members of the public who are addressing the Council will have their image and comments recorded. No other person has the right to record Council meetings unless approval has been given by the Chair. In line with the Local Government Act 2020, councillors are able to attend Council meetings electronically or in person, and the meetings will be open to the public via live streaming. If technical difficulties are experienced with the live streaming during the meeting, we will adjourn until the issue is resolved. If technical issues can't be resolved, the meeting may be postponed to a later date or time. Now, East Gippsland Shire Council acknowledges the Gunai-Kurnai, Monero and Bidawal people as the traditional owners of this land that encompasses East Gippsland Shire and their enduring relationship with country. The traditional owners have cared and nurtured East Gippsland for tens of thousands of years. Council value their living culture and practices and their right to self-determination. Council pays respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people living in East Gippsland, their elders past, present and future. So I will ask if there are any apologies tonight, CEO?
No, Mayor, we have a full house, no apologies.
Thank you very much. So item 1.3 is a declaration of conflict of interest. So I ask, are there any declarations of conflict of interest at tonight's meeting? I see none. Thank you very much, councillors and officers. So now at 1.4, councillors, we now move on to item 1.4, which is the confirmation of the minutes. Do I have a mover to confirm the minutes of the council meeting held Tuesday 17th of December 2024? So I have Councillor Allen, you wish to move it. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Farquhar. So, Councillor Allen, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mayor.
How about yourself, Councillor Farquhar? Would you like to speak to the motion?
No.
No. All right. The noes have it. Okay, is the motion opposed? I see nothing. Okay, so would anyone else like to speak for or against? I see nobody. So I'll now put that motion to the vote. All those for, please raise your hands. Thank you. That is passed unanimously. Now, our next council meeting is scheduled to be held on Tuesday the 18th of March 2025 at the Corporate Centre here at 273 Main Street, Bairnsdale, commencing at 6 p.m. So I'll ask our CEO, Ms Weigel, are there any requests for leave of absence?
I don't believe we have any for that meeting, no.
Thank you very much. Now we will move on to open forum. The first item is 1.7.1, which is petitions. So do we have any petitions, CEO?
Not this evening, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Questions of council. I do believe we have some questions of council.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, we have 3 questioners of council, each with 2 questions. I don't believe any of them are in the room this evening, and they've all asked for their questions to be read out. Our first 2 are about planning matters. I'll ask our General Manager of Place and Community to come forward. As I read the question, it is from Jonathan Smith, and the preamble is, Dear Councillors, my question relates to the proposed planning scheme amendment C159 voted on by Council on the 13th of April in 2021. In particular, the proposal is referred as it refers to lots 5A and 5B in Gloria Avenue, Meetown. As the owner's representative of lot 5A, title registered in my wife's name, and in correspondence with the owner of lot 5B, we are very keen to consolidate these lots in accordance with the C159 proposal. We are considering consolidating them now as a joint owners in order to facilitate their sale. And Mr Smith has two questions. Question one is, if we consolidate now, could a planning permit be issued ahead of the completion of the C159 amendment? And the second question, which I'll read because they're related, is what is the current status of proposal C159 amendment and the anticipated date for completion? Thank you for your time. I'll ask Mr Stevenson to please respond briefly to those questions.
And thanks to Mr Smith for the question, and through you, Mayor. So we certainly are aware of the layout issues associated with this property, and we're seeking to rectify this as part of the planning scheme amendment, which is C159. While technically the land can be consolidated, it would not be in accordance with the current restructure plan, and so a planning permit could not be issued for the land at this point in time. Doesn't mean it can't be into the future, but at this point in time it can't be. And just to reiterate, we've been in contact with Mr Smith about this issue. The second part of the question in relation to the planning scheme amendment, we're currently preparing planning scheme amendment C159 to present to Council in May this year. We'll be seeking Council's permission to seek authorisation from the Minister for Planning and to exhibit the amendment. If successful, all affected landowners will receive correspondence about the amendment and the amendment process. And just for clarification, this goes across approximately 60 properties, so we're hoping that progresses well this year.
Thank you very much, Mr Stevenson, for your reply.
Oh, well,
Yes.
back to me.
Yes, back to you.
The second two questions are from Chris Wispler. I hope I've got his name right. As of this year, at least 14 children catch the school bus at the intersection of Lamandra Boulevard and Great Alpine Road. The current bus stop is just a big muddy patch strewn with rubbish. To reach it from Brookfield Lakes Estates, the children must cross a busy highway while traffic screams past at 100 kilometres an hour. The 70-kilometre speed limit is never enforced. He has two questions. One is a general question, but this is a specific one about this area. When will a safe, sheltered bus stop be built for school children at Brookfield Lakes Estate? And we have our General Manager of Assets and Environment who will answer that question. Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. It's a very good question. I've been out to the location and had a look, and currently it's just a gravelled area on the side of the Great Alpine Road where vehicles can pull over. So it is a good question. The Great Alpine Road is a road that's managed by the Victorian Government through the Department of Transport and Planning, and the responsibility for new and upgraded bus stops rests with Public Transport Victoria, which is more broadly part of that Department of Transport and Planning. Council has a role in maintaining bus stops once they're established, but the new and upgraded bus stops are with Public Transport Victoria. So we'll raise these concerns about the safety of this current location and the need for appropriate bus stop with PTV and with the Department of Transport and Planning.
Thank you. And there is a second question, so please don't go away. The second question, public transport within Bairnsdale is essentially non-existent. A few buses a day, mostly bereft of passengers, wander through the back streets of central Bairnsdale without providing the regular, wide-ranging service needed by passengers and seen in comparable towns such as Sale and Morwell. Will Council consider either A, trialling a flexi-bus on demand system, or B, running an electric minibus on an hourly circuit through the day to link the housing estates in the CBD with essential locations such as the hospital, TAFE and the railway station? Thank you.
And thank you, Mayor, through you. Thanks again. Good question. because public transport's so important for our community, and there's a number of times we've raised concerns about access to key community facilities by public transport. Again, the responsibility for that sits with Public Transport Victoria and more broadly within the Department of Transport and Planning. So we will take those concerns and raise those with PTV. Thank you.
Thank you. Our third set of questions is from Mr. Butler Cole. 2 questions here. I'll ask again, I think these ones sit with the General Manager of Places and Community. The first question is, when will Council deliver a declared position and policy on proposed activities within the Shire, specifically critical minerals mining, wind and solar farming and grid connections, gas prospecting and extraction? Thank you.
Thanks for the question, and through you, Mayor. It's probably important to note that the last council developed a position on extractive industries, which is available on our website. This council may wish to review or add to that position. However, at this point in time, it remains the council's position, the one that is on the website. In terms of solar industries, these are addressed under the planning scheme with the Minister for Planning, being the determining authority. Council will provide information and advice into this process, and this advice will be determined by the specific location of the proposal. In relation to gas prospecting and extraction, it is determined by the Victorian Government, and Council's role would be limited to providing input into any consultative processes that are set up through the relevant departments.
Thank you. And there is a second question which is related to the first. Where the above activities, and they're the activities we just discussed, are decided centrally by state ministers, who is responsible for total community advocacy and appropriate funding to obtain the optimum results for the East Gippsland community? Thank you.
Thanks for that question as well, and through you, Mayor. It's fair to say it's a fairly complex question, and there isn't any really neat answer. So in the first question, we referred to 4 separate project types, and in each of these, Council's role will differ slightly, as does the responsibility for the proponents and the agencies to seek views. Council does have a role, though, to ensure that the agencies with the legislative powers in these areas are building requirements of strong and effective community engagement into their projects. This should then be the obligation of the proponent to fund and carry out to the satisfaction of the legislated agency.
Thank you. So, Mayor, that ends our questions. Given that none of the question askers, I'm not sure that's actually a questionnaires in the gallery, just wanted to ensure that they knew that the answers are captured in the minutes of the meeting, and we will make sure that they get those answers. Thank you.
Thank you for that, and I sincerely hope that those who have asked the questions have been answered to their satisfaction, and that should at least, hopefully it satisfies those 3 questioners. That'll do. So I believe in public submissions that there are no public submissions for tonight's meeting, CEO?
No public submissions this evening.
Okay, thank you. And 1.8, which was items for noting, there are none for tonight.
Items to be tabled? No.
Thank you very much. That leads me to item 2, notices of motion. So,
we do have a notice of motion this evening, Mayor, which I'm sure you're aware of.
We do have a notice of motion, and perhaps I've been quietly getting apprehensive about this because I have put forward a notice of motion for tonight's meeting. So I will, yes, I've submitted a motion at item 2.1 relating to the Emergency Services and Volunteer Fund. So I will now move the motion that Council writes to the Municipal Association of Victoria, Rural Councils Victoria and the Victorian Ratepayers and Residents Association, seeking those entities to write to the Treasurer of Victoria, the Honourable Jacqueline Symes, MP, outlining the significant financial impact of the proposed rates for the Emergency Services and Volunteer Fund on Victorian property owners, and advocate for the proposed variable rates to be reconsidered. So after reading this, I will ask, do I have a seconder? Well, thank you. Councillor Crook, thank you for seconding that. So that now gives me the right to speak to my motion. So on December 13, 2024, the Victorian Government announced significant changes to the Fire Services Property Levy. All property owners in Victoria are required to pay this levy except for certain exemptions and concessions. The current Fire Services Property Levy will be renamed to the Emergency Services and Volunteer Levy, which will be calculated using two components, a fixed amount and a variable rate. From July 1, 2025, the prescribed variable rate component of the Emergency Services and Volunteers Fund will increase as follows. Residential, from 8.7 to 17.3 cents, which is a 99% increase in residential fees. On commercial land, it will go from 66.4 to 133 cents, around 100% increase. Industrial land, 81.1 to 133 cents, around a 64% increase. And here's where it gets really bad. For primary production, from 28.7 to 83 cents, around a 189% increase. In our area, the largest impact on this charge will be primary producers. We have 3,519 primary producers that will have increases due to the changes in the levy. The increase in the levy will be substantial and an unbudgeted price increase. As a rural council that is the second largest in the state, and with agriculture being one of the top 3 industries in our area, I have significant concerns about the new levy and its impact to our farming and commercial community, especially on the back of the timber industry transition in East Gippsland. These increases will put further pressure on ratepayers who are already struggling during the cost of living crisis. So in finishing there, I would ask Councillor Cook, would you like to speak as a seconder to this motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And just to reiterate support for those matters that you've raised in relation to this notice of motion, I'd also like to add that it's not just the increase in price that's being imposted on our residents, it's the way the state government has gone about making this decision, in that it's gone about making this decision with no consultation with our council, or in fact, to my knowledge, any council in Victoria. It's simply told our and other councils that we will collect this extra revenue on behalf of the state. There's been no resourcing granted to local councils to provide this service for the state government, and so it's actually a double whammy. It's not only asking our residents to pay a greater levy, and I'm not disputing the fact that people should be making a contribution to emergency services, I accept that, but the fact that we are being asked to collect this on behalf of the state government with no resourcing provided is a financial impost on council that is unbudgeted for, and we don't necessarily, it will mean pulling resources from another area to meet that demand, and it's also a financial impost on each and every resident and ratepayer in the region. So I commend the motion to the council, and you should all vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crook. So I ask, does anyone oppose this motion? Okay, thank you. So would anyone else like to speak for or against? Councillor Buckley, please speak.
Thank you, Mayor. So, councillors, I speak tonight to support this motion and to strongly oppose the unjust burden that the new emergency services levy will place on all rural communities, particularly here in East Gippsland. The Victorian Government decision to nearly double, if not triple, the variable component of this levy is not just an increase, it's an attack on our farmers, small businesses and struggling households. The numbers speak for themselves, and yes, the Mayor has already mentioned them, but I must say them again. Residential properties will see a 99% increase. Commercial landowners will pay 100% more, and industrial landowners will face a 64% hike. But worst of all, primary producers, our farmers, the backbone of our region, who have been struggling for some time, in Victoria are being hit with a staggering 189% increase. For East Gippsland, this is nothing short of economic vandalism. We have 3,519 primary producers in our region who are already doing it tough, recovering from bushfires, navigating a volatile agricultural market and dealing with the ongoing impacts of the timber industry transition. These people who put food on our tables, yet they are being slugged with a massive unbudgeted cost. This levy increase comes at the worst possible time. Across Victoria, families are battling the cost of living crisis and businesses are trying to stay afloat. Our farmers and regional communities should not be forced to carry the financial weight of this policy shift. The government must acknowledge the disproportionate impact on rural areas and rethink this unfair taxation. That is why this council must act. By supporting this motion, we will call on the Municipal Association of Victoria, Rural Councils Victoria and the Ratepayers and Residents Association to stand with us and demand that the Treasurer reconsider these excessive rates. We all support property-funded emergency services, but this is not the way to do it. A tax system that disproportionately penalises rural and regional Victoria is neither fair nor sustainable. We need a levy that reflects economic realities, not one that places unbearable strain on those who can least afford it. So I urge my fellow councillors to support this motion and send a clear message to the state government that rural Victoria's message is clear. Enough is enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Buckley. Anyone else wish to speak? All right, then I shall put this motion to the vote. So all those for? Thank you. Thank you for the support, councillors. That is passed unanimously. So at item 3 is deferred business, and I believe we have none.
We have none. Thank you.
All right, and item 4 is council or delegate reports, which would have been submitted. That leads us to item 5, which is officer reports. The first report is item 5.1.1 for contract 2025-1711, provision of design services for development of a multi-use indoor facility at Lakes Entrance. The General Manager of Assets and Environment, would you please present your report? So thank you, Mr McConnell.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillors, before you is a report recommending the award of a contract for the provision of design services for the development of the multi-use indoor facility at Lakes Entrance. This is a significant project and it's been some time in the making. Importantly, there's been a series of pieces of work that lay the foundation for this project, and that includes an earlier feasibility study and also the identification of the project as a priority within the East Gippsland Sporting Facilities Plan. The project really responds to what we're hearing from the sporting community, in particular basketball, but also other indoor sports, about the lack of facilities within the Lakes Entrance area and the flow-on effect that has more broadly in East Gippsland. But importantly, what we have at the moment is a waiting list for people who want to play and are unable to play. And I think the critical issues around participation in sport, particularly for young people, but not just for young people, are, I think, recognised by this council and the value that those team sports play in our broader community. The proposal you have in front of you sees a proposal for design of this new Lakes Entrance indoor facility, which includes, it's a 3-court stadium, and then there's a range of associated work with that, including some upgrades to tennis courts and various road and car parking works associated with that, and so on. So it's a significant redevelopment in that area surrounding the current Aquadome site in Lakes Entrance. Importantly, the project is substantially funded by the Victorian Government, so there is a commitment there for $800,000 of contribution to, or design, a grant of up to $800,000 to support the design of this facility. We've been through a process, councillors, where a clear scope of works for that design has been set out and been through a competitive process as we do, and a tender evaluation panel has considered the range of submissions provided and made a recommendation. That recommendation is before you, and I just reiterate, as we usually do, that the tender evaluation panel report that's attached is confidential. If councillors wish to discuss that, we can do so, but we'll need to move into the confidential session of council to do that. So, councillors, before you do have a recommendation for this contract, to award this contract for the provision of design services, and that's the first step towards really moving towards the development of this facility. The design will help us in all of those things that are necessary then to secure funding down the track, and that will be a separate step that would be required to secure grant funding and other things to support the building of this facility. So, councillors, you have a recommendation before you, but I'm happy to answer any questions. And I just note that Wayne Richards and Renee Wicks are both here to assist with any more detailed questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr McConnell. Councillors, do you have any questions or queries regarding this contract? Okay, thank you, Councillor Crook.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Mr McConnell. I understand that there's been a significant contribution made to this design work from an external government party. Could you just outline what percentage of the overall design cost is being met by external funding for us?
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. And through you, Mayor, look, the majority of the design costs we expect to be covered by grant funding available through the Victorian Government. So this phase, the design phase, will come forward at limited cost to Council.
Excellent, thank you.
Councillors, any other questions? Councillor Buckley.
Thank you very much. I realise this is a question that perhaps is a little bit early in the making, but if all going well, the design goes well and the project goes ahead, all the materials that are there at present, will we be looking at repurposing those particular materials if possible, and would they be allocated perhaps into more rural areas?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Buckley, and through you, Mayor. We've certainly noted that request, and where possible, we'll give consideration how we can repurpose any materials that need to be removed for construction of the stadium. There may be some challenges with that, but certainly that's one of the things that we'll look at doing if at all possible.
Excellent, thank you.
A secondary question.
Yes, sorry, Mayor, I forgot in the excitement. The off-leash dog park that's right next door there, keen to understand if there will be any impacts from not so much this design work, but the planned upgrades to that facility in time. Do we know that at this stage?
Thanks, Councillor Crook. In some senses, it may be a little bit early. The footprint of the currently proposed in relation to the stadium is some distance away from that dog park, but you'll recall we have briefed you previously in relation to work to develop a wetland and drainage area adjacent to the Aquadome site as part of supporting or managing stormwater from that greater residential area behind the Aquadome. And so it's possible through that there could be some impact, but we're still at a very early stage. So as we step through the design processes, we'll be able to clarify that.
So, thank you. If there are no more questions, I've caught that out of the corner of my eye. I'm suspicious that our councillor from Lakes Entrance would like to move this motion. So, Councillor Allen,
You're very perceptive, Mayor. Yes, I'd like to move the motion. Thank you.
That's all right. And Councillor Crook wishes to second it.
Yeah. Vanessa, would you be able to populate that for me, please? So the motion I'm moving is that council accepts the tender submitted by Suitors Sarch Proprietary Limited, trading as Suitors Arch, in brackets Arch, for CON 2025-1711, provision of design services for the development of multi-use indoor facility, Lakes Entrance, for the contract amount of $856,108, exclusive of GST, on the condition that the funding agreement with Sports and Recreation Victoria is approved and signed. 2, authorises the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to finalise the terms and to sign the contract in the form proposed, and resolves that confidential attachment 1 to this report and all discussions relating to that attachment remain confidential. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, so just to clarify, could you now confirm that that is exactly what's on the screen there?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you for that. So, my notes say that. Yes, thank you for that. So, so Councillor Allen, would you like to speak to this motion?
Thank you, Mayor. Look, this project's been long dreamed of, and it's great that we're getting, to the stage of dreaming what it's actually going to be and putting it on paper. I think, the need for this stadium has well and truly been demonstrated, and I think it'll be a great thing not only for Lakes but for the greater community, because a lot of people travel from Orbost through Lakes to Bairnsdale because there's no facilities in Lakes to cater for the number of people that want to be involved, not just in basketball but pickleball and other sports that this will enable to be indoors. So I think it's a fantastic thing for the community of Lakes and for the greater area, and I commend it to the councillors.
Thank you, Councillor. So, Councillor Crook, would you like to also respond as being the seconder?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and just like to reiterate Councillor Allen's points there, well made. This has indeed been a long-held dream of people in Lakes Entrance. It does, in fact, this project, in fact, represents the #1 priority for the Lakes Entrance Development Association leader. So it's great to see this finally coming to fruition, and I thank the state government for the contribution they have made. This is still obviously fairly early stages with the detailed design, and to be spending $856,000 designing something, not actually building it, is an indication of just how grand and what a fantastic community facility this should end up being. So I have no hesitation in recommending it to the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crook. So, is the motion opposed? I see nobody. So, would anyone else like to speak for or against this motion? Oh, Councillor Travascus, yes.
He's going to make a comeback.
It just seems such a large amount of money for just simply a design. It's needed, but how's that broken up, I wonder?
Well, that's we've gone past. We have actually gone beyond questions. So the officer is not required to respond. So we could just leave that as perhaps a question on notice for another time. So if there's no more replies to this motion, I'll just put it to the vote, and all those in favour. Thank you, councillors. That also has passed unanimously. The next item in our report is 5.1.2. That is Contract 2025-1721, supply landfill compactor, MAV VP 44019. So I would ask if the General Manager of Assets Environment could please present your report. Thank you, Mr. McConnell.
Thank you, Mayor and Councillors. Before you is the report that provides background for the award of a contract for supply and delivery of the replacement landfill compactor. And the report is seeking your approval to accept the recommendations of the evaluation panel as been outlined in that confidential attachment to this report. Our current landfill compactor has reached the end of its useful life, and with increasing servicing and repairs, and in particular there's been some issues identified with the structural integrity of the compactor that affects its safety for use. So there is clearly a need to replace the existing compactor, and compaction of waste within a landfill is really critical. It provides that stability within the landfill, and you can imagine if you can compact the waste effectively within the landfill, we can fit more waste into the landfill and reduce our overall costs associated with managing waste on behalf of our community. We have budget allocation for the replacement of the compactor in our long-term financial plan. We've been through a request for quote process via making use of the Municipal Association of Victoria's panel for purchase of such heavy plant, which just allows us access to some appropriate suppliers of this equipment. We have the submissions, we have the evaluation panel. They've assessed it against a set of criteria, and you have a recommendation before you. So, councillors, certainly happy to take any questions that you might have, and if there's some additional matters of detail, I'll just note I've got Nathan Mazurka, our Manager of Waste Minimisation and Sustainability, available online to assist with any matters of detail as well. So thank you, councillors.
Thank you, Mr. McConnell, and just to those who may be watching, just apologise for the slight distraction here that sometimes Councillor Travascus has difficulty with his electronic side of keeping up with the meeting. So thank you, Councillor Buckley, for assisting him.
I think we all do from time to time.
And also welcome to you, Nathan. So now we'll keep going with the meeting, and I would just ask if there's questions of officers regarding this contract. So I see a couple of lights come on. So is that you're wanting to ask a question, Councillor Eastman?
Thank you, Mayor, through you. I might have missed it, Mr. McConnell, but how many years do we expect to get from the compactor?
Yeah, so it's normally, thanks, Councillor, and through you, Mayor, it's the life of a compactor is normally measured in hours. So the normal operating life of a compactor is in the order of 7,000 to 12,000 hours, and I think, and Mr. Mazurka might nod, I think that's in the order of about a 10-year period typically to get through that number of hours. So should be about 10 years.
Thank you.
Councillor Eastman. Oh, sorry. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
You've done my head in. It's okay. It's okay.
Long nightmare. What happened to the old one? Did we get a trade-in on that, or are we selling it?
Thanks, Councillor Farquhar. The previous compactor has very limited useful life in it. So, Mr. Mazurka, were we able to trade that in or similar?
Thank you for the question. Does everyone can hear me okay?
Yep. Yes.
Great. Fantastic. I had mic issues previously. Yeah, so the previous landfill compactor has been traded in for sale. That's right.
Thank you. Councillor Allen, you've got your mic on. Have you got a question?
Sorry.
No? Oh, okay. So is that all the questions we have for this item? Well, thank you, councillors. So would somebody like to move this motion? Councillor Buckley, thank you. Do we have a seconder? I'll go with with you, Councillor Davis. Yes, you need to populate that, please.
You're good to go. Can you populate that, please, Vanessa? That council accepts the quote submitted by BT Equipment Proprietary Limited, trading as Tut Bryant Equipment, for Con 2025-1721 Supply Landfill Compactor MAV VB 44019 for the submitted price of $843,000 inclusive of GST. 2, authorises the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to finalise the terms and to sign the contract in the form proposed. And 3, resolves that confidential attachment 1 to this report and all discussions relating to this attachment remain confidential.
Thank you, Councillor Buckley. So I'll just ask you if you could confirm that what is on the screen is exactly as you've read.
Indeed it is.
Thank you. So do I have a seconder to confirm that too? Thank you, Councillor.
Yes, I second that, Mayor.
Right. So, Councillor Buckley, would you like to speak to this motion?
Indeed. So, I think that it's a huge part of what we do here at the council is our waste services. We need to do them well. We need to ensure that our machines operate safely. And from my understanding, the replacement of this machine was well overdue. So I have no problems recommending it to the council that we replace it and that we have an effective, safe tip and one that works well. Waste disposal unit, thank you for that correction, Councillor Allen.
I could say something here, but I always get into trouble for using the wrong terminology for our landfill sites. I'm old-fashioned, can't help it. Councillor Davis, would you like to speak to it as you seconded it?
No, Mayor, I think Councillor Buckley covered that pretty well.
Okay, thank you. So would anyone else like to speak to this item? For or against? Yes, good on you. Thanks,
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I'll just take the opportunity to muse for a moment on the fact that why this is important. This is important because it cost us millions of dollars to dig the landfill, the main landfill for our region in Bairnsdale, and to have it lined and to have it constructed according to all the regulations that we must comply with. That space in that hole in the ground is very, very expensive space. And this machine allows us to make the best use of that space by smashing everything in as tightly as we possibly can. So it's a good idea. It's needed. Thanks.
Okay, so we've had another speaker and nobody else wishes to speak. So I guess we can go and put this to the vote. So councillors, all those in favour? Again, unanimous. Thank you very much. The next report is item 5.2.1 and it is our councillor representation register 2024 to 2028. So I'd now like to introduce our General Manager of Business Excellence, Ms Johnson, please, to give us a presentation on this report, please.
Thank you very much, Mayor. So, councillors, tonight before you have a report titled the Councillor Representation Register 2024 to 2028. And it's seeking to have established a council representation for the following mix of council-led and community groups: the Economic Development Advisory Committee, the Marina Consultative Committee, the Agriculture Sector Advisory Committee, the Local Community Road Safety Group, and an additional one that was made this afternoon, the Local Aboriginal Justice Action Committee. So, key points for this particular report. If we think back to when we started the representation discussions just before Christmas with the new councillor group, a critical element for both our community engagement and our advocacy is to ensure that council have properly appointed and effective representation on relevant external and council-led advisory committees and organisations. Through its membership and representation on different entities, council obviously strives to represent and advocate for the interests of East Gippslanders through a range of local, regional and state forums. Equally, the council-led groups provide a mechanism to seek advice and engage with a range of community members on various issues. Councillors have now been nominated to the advisory committees and groups I mentioned before. The full representation register can be found in the papers tonight, the attachment. And finally, because we only became aware of the local Aboriginal Justice Action Committee's first meeting yesterday, as in the meeting is coming up, I've prepared an amended officer recommendation for your consideration, including Councillors Cook and Councillor Eastman as representatives for that particular committee. And now that is shown on the screen, so thank you very much, Vanessa. The system works. That's the presentation of my report, so I'll hand back to you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms Johnson. Questions of the officer, councillors? All straightforward? Nobody's surprised to see their name on the board? All happy? That's good. Well, I think we might ask if somebody would like to move this motion if there are no questions. Councillor Allen, thank you. A seconder, please. Councillor Crook. All right, I think we could get a few words from you, Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, one of our roles as councillors is to sit on these committees to hear firsthand of their concerns and to feed these considerations back to council. And I think that the committees play a very, very important role in doing that. And I also know from experience that it's, as a councillor, it's a fulfilling part of the job to be involved in these committees. So to those who have accepted nomination for the committees, I thank them, and I also know that they will find great satisfaction in their roles. So I commend this motion to my fellows.
Thank you for that, Councillor Crook.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, our committees, or these committees, are an important part of councillors' outreach into the community. They form a critical measure in council's collaboration with various external parties, individuals and groups. They're really important to the business of council. So it's great that the new councillor group have had an opportunity to consider which committees they feel are a best fit for them and have taken up that challenge. So I commend the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crook. So anybody else in the group, would they like to speak for or against this item? Okay. I would perhaps, if I'm indulge and actually say something that from these committees, as Councillor Allen said, bring their problems or issues, but there are a lot of good stories that come from them, really good stories that we can act on or strengthen on behalf of the community that sit on these committees. So thank you. So if nobody else wishes to speak, I would think we should put this to the vote also. So councillors, all those in favour? Again, unanimous. Thank you very much. So this is another item for yourself, Ms Johnson. So 5.2.2 is our Community Vision 2040, and I would just ask you to speak to this item also, please.
Thank you very much, Mayor. So before you, councillors, is a report titled the Community Vision 2040, which is seeking council adoption of the revised Community Vision for 2040. A few key points for councillors to consider. So if we think about the driver and the why, which is part of the reason for this one. So Section 88 of the Local Government Act, council must maintain a community vision that is developed with the community in accordance with deliberative engagement practices, and the revised vision must be adopted by council in the year following the council election, which is obviously this year. So commencing in July 2024, council embarked on an extensive engagement program to review the community vision, speaking with community members from right across the Shire. In total, more than 2,500 people were engaged in the review of the community vision, including 1,400 people participating in a dotmocracy exercise at over 30 different locations across our region, over 955 people engaging through the Your Say platform, 155 people completing surveys, and 70 entries into the photo competition, with the winning entries appearing in the designed version of the community vision tabled before you tonight. In December 2024, a 22-member community panel was formed to bring together the feedback from the wider community and finalise the revised community vision, which is presented here for you today. This remarkable level of participation highlights the effectiveness and reach of the engagement efforts and the willingness of our community to have their voices heard. The revised community vision has not led to major changes to the previous version, indicating to us that the themes and priorities of the East Gippsland community vision remain relevant and continue to resonate with the community. You can also see the key priorities of the panel captured under each of the vision themes, which will form a key input into Council's development of your own council plan, which is part of the development you are going through at the moment. I would finally like to extend my deepest thanks to the community and the community panel members for their significant work on this vision that is being presented to you all tonight. The report's now presented to you, Mayor, for your consideration.
Thank you. So, councillors, any questions on this report? Yes. Thank you, Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just wondering, do we have an estimate about how much time, voluntary time, was committed to this process from the people that were involved?
May I ask a clarifying question, Councillor Cook? Do you mean community members or staff members or both?
I was referring to community voluntary time. I guess if there was staff voluntary time, staff are also members of the community, so that would count. But I was really interested in the voluntary effort from the community into this process.
Yeah, look, I'd probably have to get a calculator out to calculate it in an exact level.
Sure.
But essentially, though, from a on-the-ground perspective, there was various attendances at community markets, events, sporting weekends, at the Forge Theatre, at events and so forth as well across a 2-month period. So it was pretty intensive. And then if we go to the community panels piece, so there's obviously a considerable amount of time in applying to be part of the community panel member, being selected, and then they worked across 4 separate sessions, which were full-day sessions and quite intensive. And then that panel obviously came back and presented to the council group with part of its recommendations and was really heavily involved in this particular report. So whilst I don't have a off-the-cuff hour figure, I can come back to you on that. There was a lot, and a lot of in-kind.
Thank you.
No more questions. Okay, so I'd ask for a mover, please. Thank you, Councillor Cook. And
That's fine.
ladies first then. Very, very chivalrous of you. So, Councillor Buckley, you've moved the motion. Councillor Cook, you've seconded it. Thank you. So, Councillor Buckley, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mayor. Look, this is one of the better documents that I've read in some time. I was really pleased when this was presented by the community to us. I think as a new councillor group, it was really sobering that we were able to engage with the process, and I've viewed it a few times now because we are working on a really important document, which is our council plan. And I think that we need to weave the community vision in with the council plan so that we can make sure that we're truly taking the community on the journey with us, because we're all in this together. And that's a wonderful place to be in this point in time. I'd like to thank the officers for the community engagement piece. I think we're doing that a lot better that I can see, progressively over the years, that was fun to be part of. I guess, you know, we always learn as we go along, and perhaps creating space, a bit more time to be able to flesh out these things would also be something that perhaps we can do in the future a bit better. And I just want to say, in regards to the photographs in this particular report, stunning. Well done, those people that went out and captured the essence of who we are here in the jewel of the crown of Victoria, as I like to call it. So the process of refreshing our community vision, I think that's incredibly important. And I think the panel has done an excellent job. They were able to reiterate to us what was important to them, what we should focus on, what they were passionate about, and I found that all very helpful. So, councillors, tonight we've got an important snapshot of East Gippsland that will help us make our paths forward. So I commend this motion to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Buckley. So, Councillor Crook.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. I guess just to reiterate the council's thanks to all those people who participated in this process, and I know it wasn't just those on the community panel that gave up various weekends and day-long workshops to really dig in and do the heavy lifting. This is a thanks to all those people who turned up to the engagement events at the Forge Creek Theatre, at market stalls across the region, at drop-in sessions, to let us know what you want from this organisation. Being such a large organisation and a large employer in the district, it's critical that we meet the mark on community expectations for the services and the infrastructure that we're a part of delivering. So thanks for your input. It's now pretty incumbent upon us that we follow your good advice. So in that vein, I'm just going to read a couple of short passages from the community vision itself, just to give anybody who may be listening now or in the gallery or in the future to this a sense of what the community's vision for East Gippsland in 2040 is actually all about. And the central piece reads, in 2040, our people, place and environment and economy will be inclusive, connected, sustainable and resilient for growth and well-being for our unique and diverse communities. Our communities will include, encourage, respect and value everyone. Our place will be accessible, safe, connected and healthy. Our environment will be managed and preserved for all generations. Our economy will be sustainable, innovative and supportive of existing and emerging industries. And I think, councillors, if we work towards those goals, we will leave this council and our community in good stead. So I have no hesitation in recommending the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crook, and I'm sure I saw Councillor Allen put his hand up. So would you wish to speak for or against?
I wish to speak for the motion. Thanks,
Thank
Mayor.
you.
And more particularly, to just voice on behalf of the councillors, thanks to staff in particular. You know, a lot of this was done on weekends. In the winter, it was cold, it was miserable a lot of the time, but they were there and they engaged with people from ones I experienced in a really friendly, good manner, and I think that has fed very much into the result that we've got here. So, Sarah, if you could pass on our thanks to your staff for a job well done.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Anyone else wish to speak? Okay, I do. Would that be okay? On behalf of myself, I really do thank everybody that was involved, staff, public, and councillors who attended along with me to some of the sessions as well, and it was on weekends, but just the outcome's been really, really good. It's great. The participation rate, fantastic. So I would just like to acknowledge all those people who got involved with this to make this such a success and a well worthwhile into the future. As far as 2040, it's a long way, but it's we're off to a good start. So again, I would just like to thank you all so much. So councillors, if there are no more questions, I'd like to put this to the vote. So a show of hands, all those in favour? Thank you so much. Councillors, that's also unanimous. We can't seem to put a foot wrong tonight, can we? We're going okay. So, to our CEO, Ms Weigel, do we have any urgent business at item 6?
No urgent business, Mayor.
Right, thank you. Now it comes to, sadly, the sticky part. Item 7, we do have some confidential. I do need a motion to go into camera for this.
Well,
So, Councillor Allen?
Yeah, in that case, Mayor, I'll move that the meeting now go into closed session.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Farquhar. So, I would like to, I'm assuming that the councillor who's moved this would like to speak to the motion? No, he wouldn't? Okay. Nor the seconder? All right, I will put this to the vote. So all those in favour is going in camera. Also unanimous. So sadly, it's good to have seen people in the gallery, but sadly for this item, we need to close the meeting to the public. Thank you.
Sarah?
Coming back online, councillors. So after doing the confidential part of the meeting, and we are back online, I would just like to say thank you, councillors. That concludes the proceedings for tonight's meeting. Thank you everyone in the public gallery and those watching online. I would now declare the meeting closed at 7:08 p.m.